Another month means another TBR, so I'm going to do things a little bit differently this month, and I'm actually going to be using a couple different spinner wheels to pick the books on this month's TBR. I'm doing this because I have 3 sort of like main goals that I would like to achieve for this month, and the first one is to read more special edition books, so I have created a wheel that has all the titles of special editions that I have not read. Another goal is to read more book series, so I'm going to spin a separate wheel that has some book series that I have started or would like to start and own. And then the third one is to read more ARC books, so I have a third wheel with some. I think I'm going to spin the special edition one 4 times, the book series one 2 or 3 times depending on the length of the books that I get, and the ARC one possibly 2 or 3 as well depending on the lengths. So without further ado, let's get to the spins. Okay, so we're going to start off with the special editions. So I'm going to spin this 4 times. Let's do our first spin. Alright, so that is The Night is Defying, which is actually very interesting as that was on my TBR for last month. It is also the sequel to a book called The Stars Are Dying that I read later last year around the time when it came out. As for our next one, Under the Oak Tree, which is a novelized retelling, I believe like a web novel. Our next one, The Scarlet Alchemist. That is a fairy loot pick. This is also one that I've been meaning to get to for a while. Hopefully I will like this one. And then our last one, because we're only doing 4. Is The Courting of Bristol Keats. So this is another interesting one because I actually have 2 separate copies of this that are... Next up is the book series wheel. So this one is the one that is the most extensive, largely because there are a lot of book series that I would like to get to that I have not yet had the chance, and also some that I have started and have not finished. So I'm going to start off with 2 spins, and then depending on whether or not I want more options or how long the series are or how long the books are. Also, because this is series, plan for this is more so to only just read the next book in this series or to start the series as opposed to read the entire series, because there are some that are like, 6 books long, or maybe there are only 3 books but there's still another 2 books to come or something like that. So I'm not going to put pressure on myself to read the entire series. Obviously, it would be nice if I could. We're going to do our first spin. That is Courting Darkness. So this is a YA fantasy series, and it is a duology, but it is also a companion series to another one. So I'm not 100% sure on whether or not you can read the companion series without reading the first one. So I'll have to double check. And then our second spin is A Tempest of Tea. So that is also a YA series and is an exciting one as well because I believe the second book is coming out soon. That one, I also have a special edition copy of it. I'm going to do a third spin for this just because I'm not 100% sure if I can read the Courting Darkness duology without having read the previous trilogy, and I currently don't have any of those, but I will look at my library to see if they have them if it is necessary, but I'm just going to do another spin. Our third spin that is Noctis Magicae, which I believe is also a YA series. I believe it's like school-based series, but I will talk more about it once I go and actually collect the books. Alright, so our last wheel is the ARC wheel. There is a lot less books on this one than the previous ones. I'm going to do our first spin. That is The Raven Scholar. Okay, that one, I actually already started it, and also a bit of a spoiler, but it happens to also be a special edition that I just received as well. So we're going to do another one because there was two, but The Raven Scholar is probably the best pick that I could have gotten from this. My second one is called Yaseni and the Daughter of Peace, and this, I think, YA/middle grade. Alright, so I'm actually filming this next portion of the video on a separate day because the lighting, that's why there's been an outfit change and probably a camera angle change. So without further ado, let's just get into the books. The first one that I have here is The Night is Defying. So this is the second book in a trilogy, I believe. The first one is called The Stars Are Dying, and it follows a main character named Estrella who lives in this world where vampires sort of run the show, and there is this competition. Representatives of each of the different human kingdoms can compete in this tournament to try and become members of the Vampire King's royal court and also gain immunity for their nation as well. By unlikely circumstances, sort of forced into this competition, and there is also a romance subplot that follows her mysterious other character who appears mainly as a voice in her head that only she can see. I think it's quite similar to the Serpent in the Wings of Night series, so if you enjoyed that one and liked in specific the trials and vampire aspects of it, I think this series is one that could really appeal to you. This is the standard special edition, but it does have sprayed edges and also an exclusive cover. The third one in the series is also set to come out later this year, so I'd really like to get to this one soon. I have actually already started this as it was on, I think, both my March and April TBRs, but I just wasn't in the mood to read this book at that particular time. But it is one that I am really excited to read, and I'm sort of upset at myself for not having got to already because I was anticipating it so much. The next book is Under the Oak Tree. So this is actually a novelization of a webcomic of the same name. I don't know too much about this story, but I believe we're following a main character who is a daughter of a noble who is forced into an arranged marriage, and the man that she is forced into an arranged marriage with is some sort of knight, and I think it is more of like a traditional classic sort of romantasy following a more classical plotline of a noble lady and a knight falling in love. I'm going to read off the back synopsis. It says, most fairy tales end with a wedding and a happily ever after, but this is no fairy tale. Lady Maximilian is the daughter of the powerful Duke Croiso, but she is rarely allowed outside her family's sprawling castle for fear that her stutter will tarnish their noble name. When she is forced to marry Sir Riften, a low-born knight caught in one of her father's schemes, Maxie does not dare hope for happiness, let alone love. Her stumbling communication and his gruff manner sours their relationship before it can begin, and Riften leaves without a word the morning after their vows are exchanged. Now, 3 years after their disastrous wedding night, Riften has returned as a war hero. To Maxie's surprise, despite rumors that he was offered marriage to Princess Agnes, a beautiful and renowned sorceress, Riften still wants Maxie for his wife, and when he comes to claim her, his desire bewilders Maxie, even as she is overcome by the scorching heat that Riften's presence ignites within her. As she learns to navigate the intricacies of her new life, Maxie will find herself in her courage and discover that she is anything but powerless. Edges on this also have a quote which says, "The first moment I saw you, I knew you would ruin me," so I definitely feel like this is really leaning into the current romantasy trend, and I am excited to see how this one sort of compares to the webcomic. I have not actually read the webcomic, but I would like to pick it up, and I think reading this book and sort of reading the webcomic maybe at the same time, a really interesting experience to see how the different formats have impacted the storytelling. The next one is The Scarlet Alchemist by Kylie Lee Baker. So like the other two, this is another one that I'm really excited to get to. This is the Fairy Loot special edition of this book, and it's one that I actually purchased separately as it came out before I had started my subscription with them. The second book, which is called The Blood Orchid, recently came out as well in Fairy Loot did an edition that I almost bought but decided to wait on. This one, I believe we're following a main character who is an alchemist of sorts, and she's brought into this sort of competition to compete for a place within the Emperor's court as an alchemist. So I will read off the description here. The principal rule of alchemy: you cannot create good without also creating evil. Zelan dreams of becoming a royal alchemist, escaping her impoverished village in southern China to make alchemical gold for the wealthy so they can stay young forever. But for now, she scrapes a living practicing an illegal form of alchemy, resurrecting the dead for a price. Then Zelan is offered the chance to travel to the capital and complete the imperial exams, facing a series of dangerous tasks that she will be lucky to survive, let alone pass. The closer Zelan gets to her goal, the more she is caught in the deadly games of the royal family, especially when the crown prince seeks her help, suspecting a coming assassination attempt. There are monsters lurking within the palace walls, and it's only a matter of time before they, and the secrets of Zelan's past, catch up with her. This one seems really, really interesting. I love sort of like East Asian inspired settings, and also May is East Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, so the perfect time to be reading this book as well. So I'm really excited to get to it. I also love this cover. This is a redesigned cover. It was the main reason why I purchased this book, because I just love it. Kuri Huang is the illustrator of this cover, and she has done a lot of other ones that I love. Daughter of the Moon Goddess covers, and I'll try and find some other ones because she is one that I tend to love. This is also what the Under the Dust Jacket. The last book for the special editions prompt was The Courting of Bristol Keats. So this is the Owl Crate exclusive edition. I also have the regular standard edition of this book, which also has like a sprayed edge, but this is the one that I decided to pick up to show off. And it also has a quote on the back which says, "If she was enchanted, she wanted to stay enchanted forever. No more fresh starts, but a chance to water a seed, to let something grow and bloom." There's also some end paper artwork as well. This one was also a Fairy Loot exclusive edition pick, and I don't have that copy, but the artwork in that one is also really stunning. Hopefully it can. As for what this book is about, I believe we're following a human protagonist whose father, I think, is either killed or kidnapped. It has some ties to the Fae, so she ends up either traveling to the Fae realm or the Fae world to try and investigate her father's death, and I believe there is some sort of romantic connection that connects her to someone who might know more about her father's disappearance. I'm going to read off the dust jacket here, which says, "Dangerous Fae, dark secrets, addictive romance." After losing both their parents, Bristol Keats and her sister struggle to stay afloat in their small, quiet town of Bowes Keep. When Bristol begins to receive letters from an aunt she's never heard of, who promises she can help, she reluctantly agrees to meet and discovers that everything she thought she knew about her family is a lie. Her father might even still be alive, not killed, but kidnapped by terrifying creatures and taken it to a whole other realm, the one he is from. Desperate to save her father and find the truth, Bristol journeys to a land of gods and fae and monsters. Pulled into a dangerous world of magic and intrigue, she makes a deadly bargain with the fae leader, Tigan. But what she doesn't know is that he's the one who drove her parents to live a life on the run, and he is just as determined as she is to find her father, dead or alive. The initial part of the synopsis about fairies and a main character and different having sisters is kind of reminding me a lot of ACOTAR. I don't know if other people have said that, but I think in general a lot of fae books do tend to take inspiration from ACOTAR or have at least similar elements to that book. And I also believe the second book is coming out this year. The next section of books was the book series, and actually all three of the series that I pulled are ones that I have not yet started. All of them will be first books in a series. The first one that I pulled was the Courting Darkness series by Robin Lefevers. I have not heard much about this series, and I actually did not know when I picked it up that it was a spin-off duology to an already completed trilogy. And as a result, instead of reading this one, I will be reading the first book in the original trilogy, which is called His Fair Assassin. The first book is called Grave Mercy. I do not own a physical copy of this book, so I will be be reading it from my library. Because I won't be reading this one, I'm going to read you the synopsis of Grave Mercy instead. Why be the sheep when you can be the wolf? 17-year-old Ismay escapes from the brutality of an arranged marriage into the sanctuary of the Covenant of Saint Mortain, where the sisters still serve the gods of old. Here she learns the god of death himself has blessed her with dangerous gifts and a violent destiny. If she chooses to stay at the convent, she will be trained as an assassin and serve as a handmaiden to death. To claim her new life, she must destroy the lives of others. Ismay's most important assignment takes her straight into the High Court of Brittany, where she finds herself woefully unprepared, not only for the deadly games of intrigue and treason, but for the impossible choice she must take. For how can she deliver death's vengeance upon a target who, against her will, has stolen her heart? So this one seems really interesting. It's also an older YA series, and I believe it came out in about 2012. I'm hoping that it will have some of those more nostalgic vibes. The synopsis and the general vibe of the story is historical fantasy because it is set in historical France and Brittany, I believe in the 14th or 15th century. It sort of reminds me a lot of the Nightshade trilogy by Hannah Witten, as well as the book Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson. The Nightshade trilogy has this sort of system of like death magic and setting that is inspired by historical France, in particular and then Vespertine, we follow a character who is sort of like a nun who has these powers and this voice in her head. So both of those I really enjoyed, so I'm hoping that I will like Grave Mercy as well. The next series that I got was A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal. So this is also actually a special edition. It has like a sprayed edge. I also got art card for it that came with as part of the pre-order incentive. Seems to be a vampire-inspired fantasy where there are vampires in some sort of tea house that doubles at night as a illegal blood house for these vampires to gather. And I believe there is some sort of heist element because I've seen a lot of comparisons between this book and the Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. Why save the world when you can have tea? On the streets of White Roaring, Arthie Casimir is a criminal mastermind and a collector of secrets. Her prestigious tea room transforms into an illegal bloodhouse by night, catering to vampires feared by society. But when her establishment is threatened, Arthie is forced to strike an unlikely deal with an alluring adversary to save it, and she can't do that job alone. Calling on some of the city's most skilled outcasts, Arthie hatches a plan to infiltrate the sinister, glittering vampire society known as the Aetherium. But not everyone in her ragtag crew is on her side, and as the truth behind the heist unfolds, Arthie finds herself in the midst of a conspiracy that will threaten the world as she knows it. I'm excited to get to this one, excited to see Hafsa Faisal's take on vampires, and the comparison to Six of Crows so far seems to be pretty well done, though I have heard some criticism against this book in particular about its lack of diverse representation of, largely because Six of Crows and a lot of books like it are well known for having LGBTQA plus characters. I have maybe heard some others that have said that the world building wasn't as good in this and some of the character work. So I am hesitant, but I am hopeful to enjoy this one as well. The last series that I got was the Noctis Magicae series, and the first book is called The Midnight Queen. So this one is one that I've actually had on my TBR for quite some time. I believe this is set to be a dark academia YA fantasy that is inspired by Arthurian mythology. All of those elements seem really interesting to me. There is also a romance subplot as well as a lot of discussion about gender discrimination because in this world only men are able to study and become mages, so I'm really interested to see how the author will navigate that. So the aspects also of having a magical school and also a British-inspired setting on gender also reminds me a lot of Laurie Forrest, the Black Witch series. Alright, so the last section was ARC books, and the first one that I pulled was The Raven Scholar, which I actually recently received my April Illumicrate, which also happens to have been this book, so it also happens to be a special edition, which I think is good because this means that I'm taking off 2 boxes at once in terms of reading both an ARC copy and a special edition at the same same time. I recently filmed an unboxing video, so that should be coming up soon as well. So after 24 years on the throne, it is time for Bearson the Burst, Emperor of Oran, to bring his reign to an end. In the dizzying heat of midsummer, 7 contenders will compete to replace him. Trained at rival monasteries, each contender is inspired by a sacred animal: fox, raven, tiger, ox, bear, monkey, and hound. An 8th, the dragon proxy, will be revealed once the trials have begun. 8 exceptional warriors, thinkers, strategists, the best of the best. Then one of them is murdered and falls to the brilliant but idiosyncratic Nima Craw to investigate. But as she hunts for a killer, darker forces are gathering. If Nima succeeds, she could win the throne, whether she wants it or not. But if she fails, she will sentence herself to death and set in motion a sequence of events that could doom the empire. I think this one seems really interesting. Because I had the art copy, I have already started reading it. I'm really excited to see the way that the author is going to explore the magic system in particular, because it seems that there is a big tie to the animals that these characters are affiliated with, especially given that the Naked hardback has these different animals on it. So I am really excited to see how that is incorporated. I'm also really excited to get to meet all of these different characters. The last one is called Yesenia and the Daughter of Peace. This one is by Solange Burrell. The year is 1748. Alwea, known as the Daughter of Peace, bears a heavy responsibility on her young shoulders to maintain the fragile truce between the warring peoples of her West African kingdom. But as she begins to understand her role in the peace negotiations, even greater pressures emerge. Alwea discovers that she has Yesenia, a power that allows her to see events from any point in time and to travel into the past and future. When she experiences horrific visions of life aboard a slave ship, she realizes that she has to face the ultimate crossroad. She could use her gift to intervene in the past and try to prevent the transatlantic slave trade ever taking place. But that means she, as the Daughter of Peace, would be leaving her village behind at a precarious moment in the reconciliation process. Whichever path she chooses to take, the future of her people lies on her shoulders. I believe I did read the first couple of chapters of this, and I wasn't fully sold on the writing style, but the concept behind this seems interesting enough that I would still like to give this more of a shot at continuing. I think the dynamic of sort of exploring colonialism in terms of Alwea having this power to sort of see into the future and see where to focus her efforts as being the Daughter of Peace. Additionally, I also received another art copy recently, and this is actually my first ever e-audio book. It's called Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame. So this is one that I was actually really anticipating. I believe it's a novella, and it is by an author named Neon Yang. A new queer Asian-inspired fantasy novella about a renowned dragon slayer who never takes her armor off in public. Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame reads like She Who Became the Sun meets the Mandalorian with dragons. The fiercely independent nation of Quan Bao is isolated, reclusive, and something of a mystery to the rest of the world. It is rumored that their dragons are not feared as it is right and proper, but instead loved and worshipped. Yeva is perhaps a strange emissary to these people, not only because their face has never been seen in public, but because they are a hero born to a birthright that makes them suited for their task, hunting dragons. And so the dragon hunter must woo Quan Bao's queen, the Lady Suki, to understand what secrets she is hiding. A woman reasonably suspicious of Yeva's intention and the imperial might of the throne she represents, Suki bears the burden of the safety of her entire people. How can she trust this stranger newly arrived to her court, a weapon forged in blood and fire, to understand what her people need and how best to safeguard their future? This book was recommended by beautifully bookish Bethany, who really enjoyed this story, and she highlights a lot of diverse voices on her channel and also want to read more diversely as well. So I am really excited to pick this one up and happy to have gotten the audio copy of it, as I find that I struggle a lot to read my art copies, largely because I don't like digital reading. I don't like it. I know a lot of people are like, my Kindle revolutionized my reading. I read so much more. I am the complete opposite. I hate picking up my Kindle. I hate reading books off of it. I don't know why. I've had a Kindle for over a year. I've probably read 6 books on it, and I've probably read, I don't know, 150 books since that. I think that really shows that it just doesn't work for me. I like physical books, and I also like listening to audiobooks as well. So those are my 2 preferred means of reading. I believe that was 9 books. April, give a bit of a spoiler, was not my best reading month, and I actually have a few books that I'm still continuing on that I did not get to finish from April. I think there is actually maybe 3 or 4 of them, which is quite a lot, so that actually means that I will have more books to read. That gives me quite a few options to choose from. Thank you once again for watching this video, and I hope that you enjoyed it and were able to get some recommendations for books to pick up, as well as hopefully you were also inspired to sort of tackle some of your own reading challenges, whether that's like me, special editions, book series, or arcs. Irregardless, I hope that you are able to use this as motivation to pursue your own reading goals, whatever they are. And thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.